What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of At Home with Mark. We were off last week, which was kind of nice, but I am super thrilled to have my friend Jason Shadrick from Premier Guitar, as you all know. Jason and I are fans of the jam band genre,
It's true.
so
It's very true.
we are going to nerd out a little bit. We talked about doing this, and my whole idea is because we all know like the jam band thing, it's like live music is where it's at, right? So like tapes, like trading tapes and stuff is what we grew up probably doing, like fish tapes and
Oh yeah. I
dead
had
tapes.
some VHS tapes of like Steve Ray Vaughan shows I would get into. Um,
Nice.
I was probably like, I think I don't know. You're probably how old are you?
I'll be 44 2 weeks, man.
Okay, so I'll be 42 this year. So I think we were kind of at the very end of tape trading because I do remember the switch when it went from tape trading to going to like a website and actually downloading the MP3s from a show or something like that. Like I remember when that switched over right around Napster era when all that
Totally.
happened. But the tape trading was fun because I'd go and there'd be a big envelope in my mailbox. My parents were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I have these cassette tapes and I have to get the Maxell XL2. I have to get these special tapes because if they won't make me copies if I don't send the exact right cassette tapes, you know."
Right. And then the degradation of over time of the sound quality is just like,
Yeah, right. You know.
but I did, there was a point when it changed to CDs. Like I have a
Mhm.
whole CD booklet that's all Mo. It's just all Mo bootlegs.
Yes, I have one there, and
So,
then I have actually it's right here. I have one of these of like
heck yeah.
CDs of like bootleg stuff. Yeah,
Just spindles and spindles.
just spindles of. When my best friend in high school got his CD burner, it was like this changed our life, bro.
Yeah.
This we're never gonna be the same. We're never gonna be
Yeah.
the same.
And by the way, spindle is a fun word. I wish
Spindle
that was more applicable throughout my day. I'm gonna start to squeeze spindle in somehow.
seems like a
Um,
one-use word.
it is. It's kind
Yeah.
of a bummer. It's so fun off the tongue. Um, so Jason, we can start with you. You can go first, but the rules of this game are, and we talked
Okay.
about this a little bit beforehand, but the rules of the
Yep.
game are we're gonna kind of go back and forth. These do you want to do it in order of your favorites or you just want to kind
No.
of do yeah, I don't
No.
want to do that. I can't pick favorites.
These are not going to be in order of ranking. But I do want to say before we dive in, what is your loose overarching definition of a jam band album? What are like maybe the one or two elements it has to have to qualify?
It's a great question. I mean, I think for me, when I think of jam band, I think of a band that has a grassroots following, that a very dedicated following of people that go to see them specifically because they change set lists from night to night to night to night. And I think of those bands as studio albums are a vehicle to get those songs in the ear holes of their followers and their fans and stuff, but they don't rely on that as their source of income,
Right.
for instance. Like
Yeah.
that's what my definition. What's yours?
Does it have anything to do with genre?
I don't think it has to have anything with genre other than the fact that improvisation has to play a very large part. Like you have to be open to taking risks almost, I feel
Okay.
like.
Yeah, yeah. I would say it has to have improvisation. Um, or it has to have. Let me take that back. The album itself probably has some improvisation, but they definitely have to improvise more live than they do on the record. To me,
Correct.
that's the defining. That's probably the singular defining aspect is that all of these bands, whatever it is on the record, if it's a 3-minute pop song, you know that if you go see them live, it's going to be a different version of that song that you've never heard before.
Right.
You
And
know,
different every time you see that
yeah,
song.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, everybody like Lawn Boy with Fish, like they've played that song almost exactly the same. Obviously, the soul has been different, but the form of that song has been exactly the same for 40 years, except for one night. One night when they played like a 30-minute version of it.
I'm
You
sure
know?
everyone was ecstatic about that.
Yeah, exactly. Is this still Lawn Boy? What's going on? You know,
Yeah, that's hilarious, dude. What show was that? What year was that?
that was one of the Baker's Dozen shows, the jam,
Oh,
the old one, I believe.
so in the
Um,
past 10 years.
I mean, that's the only time they've ever like really taken that song, out to space or whatever. And it was
Right.
long. It was like It was like 30 minutes, bro. 30
Oh,
minutes.
yeah, man. I don't know if I could hang with that. That would be a bathroom break.
well,
Uh,
well, yeah, it could be several.
That's true.
It could be several.
I
All
think
right,
I, yeah, you want to go
you
first?
want to go first? Okay. So I made a list of like 10 of them, and I'm almost positive this band is not going to be on your list in any way, shape, or form. This was a very Midwest. I'm from Iowa. Grew up in Iowa. I lived on the East Coast for a little bit, but this band is very Midwest band. They were the very first band to ever play Bonnaroo,
Oh,
the Big Woo,
oh,
Spring Reverb,
I know the Big Woo.
right?
Yeah.
That record to me was like so important in college. I was like, wow. And I remember I lived in Mankato, I went to school in Mankato, and they came and did the Halloween show in Mankato. And so me and a buddy of mine went to the Halloween show that they did. And I think they played some Dead and stuff. It wasn't some big over the top like musical costume or anything, but they played some Dead. They played Terrapin, I remember. Um, but they have like this pop sensibility to their tunes, and they don't do like super, super long jams, but they get into it. They could be a 7-10 minute version of a song.
Yeah. How
But
many tracks were on that record? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I mean, not Spring Reverb. There was, I mean, Tequila was a great one. Um, Shoot the Moon, Rhode Island Red. 1, 2, 3, Make Believers. That was the big jam off that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 songs. Southern Energy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Times were different then, man. People will put records out with 13 to 15 songs on it. Remember
yeah.
that?
And so this is '02, so I was right in the thick of like freshman sophomore year of college. Um, yeah, I was trying, and this band, I was going to school in Mankato. This band was just up the road in Minneapolis, and so we'd go see him. But that I listened to jam bands before that, but that was the first one where it's like, ooh, I think I discovered something that nobody else knows about.
Right.
You
Which is a
know,
good feeling.
that was it. So
Yeah.
my first pick, Big Woo, Spring Reverb. We should like. I hope we should go back and make a note of these because
Mm-hmm.
I want to make like a playlist of all these songs so I can listen to not only all mine again, but um, the ones you're gonna say.
Okay, cool.
So was that on your list? Was that even
No, that wasn't. I'm aware of that band, but that was
okay?
not, didn't even pop into my head because I don't think I would love to listen to that record because I don't think I've ever heard it, to
Oh,
be
it's so
completely
good.
honest.
It's like their farmhouse. It's like
Oh, okay.
that's what I that's a really good comparison. Please don't tell me you're listing 5 Mo records. I love Mo.
Actually, no. It's funny because I was talking to my buddy Billy. He's a huge Mo head, and like we actually met over the past year or so, kind of through this. He saw me on Mike Palmisano's channel talking about Mo, and then he hit me up and was like, "I can tell you're an OG," and I was like, "Yep," and so is he. Like we're the same age and stuff. And I was telling him about this today, and he was like, are you gonna put all Mo records on that? And I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Kind of thing. But he's like super, super Mo fanatic. Like he knows set lists, dates, things like that. Like I love that dude. Like he's just so in love with that band, and I identify with that, obviously.
All right, what's your first
So
Mo record?
my first Mo record. Yeah, I can start with Mo.
Go ahead.
So Mo is probably, I mean, I grew up with an older brother who listened to the Dead and exposed me to the Dead, exposed me to Fish, exposed me to John Scofield and the Go-Go record, things like that. I did not hear about Mo through my brother, but he was the conduit. I was at a Fish show in Virginia Beach. It was 1997, I believe, the Virginia Beach show, with Leroy from Dave Matthews. He was playing 2 saxes. That's when they right before Story of a Ghost came out.
Okay, yeah.
And it was a super funky. The first set was like, you could tell they'd been listening to funk music and all that.
You said this was '97.
Yeah, 97 or 98, one of them, like right around there.
I mean, the fall '97 was famous for that funk tour.
Yeah,
That was famous.
I'm like almost sure it was the summer of 97. Because I had just graduated from high school, and it was funny because I was with my girlfriend and her family down in North Carolina on vacation, and I left. I drove to Virginia Beach to go to that show, and then I drove back to the vacation. But anyway, long story short, my buddy and I were walking through the lot, and somebody was walking by with a Mo shirt on, just Mo, period. And we were like, "What is that?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a band. If you like Fish, you would love Mo." So I got way deep into Mo after that. No Doy was out and all that, but my favorite Mo studio record is Tin Cans and Car Tires.
That was the one I put down. That was the one on my list. That, yeah.
Well, you know what? I mean, I have a backup to that. The backup to that would be Wormwood.
I'll go with Tin Can because I'm not gonna pick. No, you go ahead. But
Okay.
I co-sign.
Yeah.
I co-sign on Tin Can.
Just like, how can you deny those songs? Those songs are so good. The production on that record is just fantastic. Like, that was Vinny's first album, like recording with that band. I love Vinny so much. He's not only a wonderful human being, but he's a killing drummer. He's so underrated in that scene. He's got a great touch, but it's my favorite record, I think, because of the songs and because of the production quality on that record.
I mean, Plane Crash, Nebraska, Spaz. I mean,
Happy Hour Hero.
Yeah.
There's just so many great tunes on that record. I mean, it's like, I don't think I ever skip a tune on that record. It's great driving music, you know?
Is that the one if somebody's like, where do I start with Mo? Would that be a record you give them?
I honestly probably, but like, I think Wormwood is a better representation because of how they recorded that record. Are you hip to that?
No, it's I have one very deep jam band buddy, Rob from Dopapod.
I know Rob Compa, yeah.
And I asked him the same question, just to like, because you're deep in this, what are you doing? And Wormwood was his Mo record on his list.
Yeah, I think that's a good entry because they recorded it. They basically pulled drum tracks from the tour. So they did a tour and they recorded every show and they pulled Vinny's stuff from there. And then they did overdubs on top of that.
So
I think they kept bits and pieces and stuff. So that's a great representation of like what they do live. So
yeah.
Love that record.
Wormwood. Yep. That was on his list. I was just here looking at his list.
Yeah.
All right. You picked Tin Cans. Okay. As I look down at my list, I am going to go with, this might be a bit spicy to take, but I'm going to go with Aquarium Rescue Unit.
Okay.
But I'm going with Mirrors of Embarrassment, not the Colonel Hampton.
Okay.
And because the first time I heard that was, but no, Mirrors of Embarrassment is a Colonel Bruce Hampton one. I'm thinking of the EP. I got him mixed up. My bad.
That's okay.
The EP, they had, was it Paul Henson on vocal? I can't remember the name of the vocalist, but it was like, I thought the songs, I downloaded off Napster, and hold on, I'm gonna get the seat now. I did all this work to do it, and I got the name of the album wrong.
That's fine, dude.
So yeah, so it was that first record without Bruce, was called In a Perfect World. That's what it was called.
Okay.
A Perfect World. Stand Up People, Plain or Peanut. That's the one. How Tight Your Drawers. That's Satisfaction Guaranteed. I had those tunes on repeat, and that was probably the first time I really like heard Jimmy Herring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was like, whew, what is like, he's totally shredding and he's a rock guitar player, but he had all this jazz language in there. And that was probably the first time I really kind of understood what fusion was.
Yeah, man. Yeah. See, I didn't hear about Jimmy until I heard Laughing Water, until I heard that Jazz is Dead record. So I didn't listen to Aquarium Rescue Unit at all. I mean, I knew about O'Teal and I knew about that band, but I never listened to them. But when I heard Jazz is Dead, then I went backwards and was like, okay, where's this dude coming from? Like,
one of the all-time great band names too, Jazz is Dead.
Yeah. So good. Those guys, like, the idea of that is now kind of being absconded by other groups that are doing it. But like, what a really hip idea to kind of take some heavy cats on the road and do something like that with these great songs, you know?
And I think they've done like a bunch of tours with a bunch of different lineups. But man, would I love to see Jimmy in the lineup again for
Yeah.
that. That'd be great.
And
All right.
Jimmy and Derek on the stage playing Road Jimmy, like, oh, good
Yeah.
God, dude. I remember I played that song for my dad at some point, and he was like, "This sounds like heavy metal," like when Jimmy was shredding. And I'm
Ripping.
like, "But it's not. It's like it's maybe inspired by that like hair metal kind of stuff that he's doing, like 3 note per string runs and whatnot, but like so more melodic, so
Yeah,
much more melodic.
yeah.
Like,
And all the outside notes are there, you know.
oh my God, yeah. Oh my
As
God.
because right now it's funny you say that because right now I'm doing a run of Rock of Ages in July.
Oh,
The, sh-
neat,
the
man.
Broadway show. I'm not doing it on Broadway. I'm just doing the show here for like a month or so. And so I'm really, for the first time, I'm really like diving deep into that 80s rock stuff. I was like, oh, okay, okay. Yeah, some of it is just stupid fun to play,
Yeah,
like stupid fun. You
I
know,
bet.
other stuff not so much, but yeah.
Are you
Because
gonna be able to get some video from the pit?
oh, bro, I'm not in the pit.
Okay. Oh, you're on the
Oh,
stage.
I'm on the stage. I may or may not be wearing a wig.
Yes.
Um, but I will tell you this: if you type my name and Rock of Ages into YouTube, you will see me in a wig on stage on Broadway doing the rig rundown.
Okay.
I did a rig
Okay.
rundown in a wig, and we didn't even mention it. It's just like here I am. That
That's
was,
awesome, Jason.
but we dropped the '80s metal. That's what came to mind. All right, what's your
What
next one?
hold on. What
Okay,
guitar are you gonna play on that gig?
I'm gonna play. I have a gold PRS DGT SE
Oh,
that I'm
okay.
gonna
Hell
play.
yeah.
I'm gonna play. I have a Les Paul, like a Sunburst Standard. I have a friend of mine has like a custom painted, almost like BC Rich looking one that he's a really great illustrator. He's gonna loan me that, and then I'm gonna rotate because we're doing like 30 shows, so I'm gonna rotate some guitars in, and then I have at the office I have an ESP with a Floyd Rose, like a Strat style ESP, black and white with a Floyd Rose and Fishman Fluence pickups in it.
Oh, okay.
So those four, and then an acoustic. I need an acoustic. Yeah, an acoustic, and then some. I'll always have two of those guitars, two of those four, um, in the mix, just depending on what you know, what I'm feeling, how it's going, and then I'm using a Helix for all the sounds.
Oh,
'Cause on
yeah.
theater gigs, that's like
That's
the
money.
only way to do it. The only way
Yeah,
to do it.
I can imagine. All right, cool. So, what did I have next? So, I'm just gonna jump around the page here. Tedeschi Trucks Band Revelator.
See, that was I thought about a Tedeschi Trucks record. Was that the second one or the
That
first
was the
one?
first one,
First
yeah.
one. Okay. If I were to pick a Tedeschi Trucks one, it would be Made Up Mine.
Made up mine. That's also a
But,
great record.
but
But
yeah.
I have this my daughter was born basically, or we found out my wife was pregnant when that record came out.
Mhm.
So I was listening to that a lot, like commuting down to Boston from Salem, Massachusetts, and like listening to the song Shelter just
Yeah.
made me think about being a dad and like, you know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
so it definitely hits home pretty hard every time that song comes on. But I consider them a jam band. I've seen
Oh,
them
100%.
several times and they stretch like mofos and they do
Yeah,
it very well.
exactly.
So for me, um, I put them in that camp, but I put them in that camp with the caveat of great songs supporting improv
Oh, yeah.
and
Uh,
a hell of a vocalist.
yep. Yeah. I mean, oof. I first saw Derek opening for Eric Johnson in Chicago in probably 99, 2000. It was definitely his solo band. It was not the Tedeschi Trucks, but he came out and played first. And a lot of people I don't think really knew who he was or had seen him. The crowd was really there to see Eric Johnson. It was probably at the Riv or something in Chicago. And my guitar buddies and I, Derek comes out, and we're all just like, after like 3 songs, we're like, our eyes are open. We're like, what is this? Like after, because we were there, like we're gonna go see Eric Johnson, but it's cool that this other guitar player is opening for him. Great, I'm sure he'll be great. And we go, and because he hadn't joined the Allman Brothers yet, so it could have been even earlier than that. And just blown. After Derek's set, we look at each other like, I'm cool if you guys want to split now. Like, I'm good, right?
Yeah,
And it was a 4-hour drive there, 4-hour drive. We're gonna be a 4-hour drive home after the concert.
yeah.
And Eric came out and he was good. I've seen Eric better, but man, that first night with Derek's solo band was just unbelievable.
Mm.
Unbelievable.
His version of Afro Blue, I used to do that all the time.
Yep. He didn't do it
Oh,
on that. I remember he didn't do it on that gig because he was only doing a short, like an hour set or whatever. But he did Footprints. Yeah, he did
oh
Footprints.
yeah. Mhm.
But man, that was a seminal point. Like, wow, you know.
It
But yeah,
is.
seeing him, and then probably the best time I've ever seen him play was when he was in Clapton's band,
Oh
and it was
wow.
him and Clapton and Doyle the second, and they were doing most of the Layla record, most of the Layla record,
Oh,
and it was,
dude.
and my daughter's name is Layla, and I was like, this is it, and it was me and my wife and my guitar teacher from college, and she's like, I couldn't even have been, it wouldn't even matter if I would have been there. You guys were so like just giggity about, oh, they're playing this tune, they're playing this tune, whatever. It was just,
Yeah.
it was incredible.
Dude,
That's a
and
good
they
choice.
it yeah, and you know what, man? Like, I got to meet him last summer. I'm sure you guys have all rubbed elbows with Derek, but
Uh-huh.
as a heathen, um, I mean, I know Gabe Dixon. So
Mm.
Gabe, they were playing at Wolf Trap, which is about an hour and a half from me. It's not too bad. Beautiful venue in Northern Virginia. Um, and I went to see them, and Gabe got us backstage, me and my buddy, and I was wearing an Ariel Posen shirt. And he had like the shirt with the 335 on the front, which is his Mockingbird. It was like his Mockingbird.
Yep.
And I was talking to Gabe, and I was like, "Hey, man, can you like introduce me to him? I don't want to be that guy. I'm gonna go bombard him like I'm a random person." He's like, "Yeah, I got you. And he like brought Derek over, and Derek was like, "Hey, man, that's a killing guitar on that shirt." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And I was like, "Do you know about Ariel Posen?" And he was like, "I don't know if I know about him." And I was like, "Oh, you should know about him. He's fantastic." And he could not have been a nicer dude. Like, we were talking about geeky guitar stuff, about like studio, gear. And I talked to him about doing this, and he was like, "I'm all in." I'm like, "I don't want to talk about guitar. I want to talk about you as a producer, though. I don't want to talk about guitar." And he was
Yeah.
like, "I'm all about it." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I'm still trying to work that out because they're always busy. But
He's tough.
such a
He's tough to nail down. I remember
yeah,
when, I think it was when, yeah, no, it was when we had him on Corey's pod. And for some reason, and I'd interviewed him several times. And sometimes the publicist will give you a heads up, hey, we don't want to talk about this or that.
right.
I'm like, okay. Most of the time, if they do that, it's very obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this time she said something like, he doesn't want to talk too much about gear or something. I'm like, okay. I mean,
Whatever.
that's fine, yeah. And so I let Corey know, and then I don't know if you've heard that episode. They're like, they get down to the minutia of like why a super reverb was great because of the 2 ohm, why it's a 2 ohm this and that. And he was totally cool. Like he was 100% cool with it the whole time.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I thought, Christ, like, yeah, I don't know why
Yeah.
she said that. He was like all in on it. He was really, really in on it. But
That's
yeah,
awesome. That's
sometimes you
awesome.
get a little weird. Okay, is it my turn?
It is your turn.
Okay. I'm going with Schofield's A Go-Go.
Hell yeah.
Yes, that was the first album that really got me into Schofield.
Mm-hmm.
It came out, I think it was like 99 or 2000 is when that came out. Right around that same time, and I had this buddy who had this like Friday night band that would always play this club in Rock Island, Illinois, and they played the song "A Go Go" once. I was like, "Oh man, what's that tune?" He goes, "Write that." He's like, "No, no, this guy John Schofield put this record called "A Go Go," and it's like a super simple like B minor jam tune."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Man, it was like the first album because I started getting into jazz. I knew I was going to go to music school. It was the first one where I felt like I could play these tunes."
Yeah.
Like, it's like a jazz record, like, these tunes aren't like, I can't solo on them like those guys, of course, but, like, I can figure these tunes out. They're not super dense harmonically. They're things you can call at a jam session and people be able to pick up on,
Mm-hmm.
There's basically 2 sections to the tune. There's 2 little riffs that go with it, and then it's kinda open on B minor, like, you could sketch that out and play it on a gig tonight, and that to me
Totally.
was like, "Man, that's it. That is it," but I mean, that was such an such a big album for me. And just maybe 2 months ago, I put it on one day and I just listened to the whole thing, and I was like, they
So
need to
good.
bring this back. They need to bring that group. They need to just go on a tour. Just come on, guys, get
Yeah.
together and just do it.
I mean, half of the allure for me about that record, obviously it was John, but like Billy Martin's playing on that record is so happening, man. It
Yes,
is
yes,
so happening. And like he doesn't get enough credit either because everybody thinks he's just kind of like quacking on a drum set kind of thing. But like that dude is very intentional about his feel and like how he plays. You could tell. I loved, yeah, that record is also seminal for me too, man. It just
yeah.
opened up so many doors. All right. So I guess I'll go with another staple. I'll go with the Dead.
Mm,
I wasn't gonna do a Dead record because I was like, do I really want to do this? And which one is my favorite? And blah blah blah. But I feel like Terrapin Station is really hard to beat, man.
that's hard to beat. That
And
I didn't have
yeah.
any Dead on my list, but
Oh, okay. I just think that Lady with the Fan, that whole thing is just a masterpiece. And like hearing Bruce Hornsby play that too, like
ooh,
when I heard Bruce do that, that is what really hooked me. And some of those changes with those passing tones, with those diminished things that happen and stuff are so soulful. And I was young when I first heard that. So I was like, what is that? How do
yeah,
you do that? There's a whole emotion that goes by and goes through you when you hear a change like that harmonically.
yeah,
Um, so that record is pretty heavy for me. And you know, my older brother is a huge Deadhead. So he'd be sitting in his room in high school playing FIFA and listening to Dead tapes and stuff. And sometimes I would just go sit and listen to the music because I was like starting to get interested about like what is improvisational music. Meanwhile, 3 hours earlier, I was in a car coming home from school or something, or with a friend listening to Pantera. So
right,
it's like,
yeah.
you know, like those worlds were colliding for me right then, but I was leaning more towards the Dead and leaning more towards this kind of music, you know? So
Side
that
note,
album,
real quick, is Pantera the jammiest of the metal bands?
you know what?
I think they are.
Probably.
Uh,
Um,
I haven't checked out their set lists and stuff, but I feel like of all the metal bands of that era, they're probably the jammiest.
I think so.
I'm gonna say it. I think that's it. I think Pantera is a jam band disguised as a metal band.
Dude,
That
I akin like Incubus, I feel like I would put in that camp sometimes too.
they're not metal enough.
No, but not metal, but I just mean
Oh,
like out of like the rock scene, they're
yeah,
leaning more towards that hippie kind of improvisational music type of a vibe. So
I
and
could
just
see
like,
that. Yeah.
you know, I don't know. Well, I guess you could say the same thing for 311 too, you
Oh,
know.
definitely 311. Yeah.
So anyway, your turn.
Oh, this one I completely wore out. Um, these all are coming from like the same era. I mean, of my life is Leftover Salmon's Nashville Sessions,
Ah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
picked this because I think at that time, I mean, there was String Cheese, there was Leftover Salmon. I'm trying to think what other jam bands really came out of that bluegrass, that real traditional bluegrass. Like this is before String Dusters, before um Yonder Mountain. You know, that era of jam bands that came from Colorado all had this heavy like bluegrass bent to them. I remember my uncle who gave me my very first guitar lesson was a really killing bluegrass banjo player. And um when I heard that record, and then through that record, that's how I was introduced to people like John Bell and Randy Scruggs and Earl Scruggs and Lucinda Williams. And that was like a super big gateway record for me. And I was so bummed because I think it was right before COVID. It was like an anniversary, maybe a 20th anniversary, and they did like 2 nights at the Ryman, and they brought a bunch of people back to play who were on the original record. And it's like that's an example of a record that's just full of really great songs that
Mm-hmm.
aren't super. I think there's only one or two songs on there that are kind of jammed out a bit, but you go see them live and they're gonna jam that shit out, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh,
And
for sure.
I'm so excited because they're coming to town here in July. They're opening for Little Feet. And I'm like, and it
Oh,
just happens, thankfully, it has
damn.
to be on a night off from Rock of Ages. So I'm like, I'm in, I'm going, let's go.
That's
So
killing.
that's gonna be great. But yeah, Nashville Sessions by Leftover Salmon.
Okay.
It's not a great representation, I think, of the well, no, let me think about that. Front to back, it's not a representation of what their band sounds like. Because they do some real like they do some real straight up bluegrass, which
Mm-hmm.
is a part of their sound, but it's not like you can't go see them and expect a whole night of that.
No.
But man, like lines on my face, lines around my eyes by Lucinda's great. Midnight Blues with Taj. Um, just I cannot recommend that album high enough.
Yeah. Again, my brother super into Leftover, and also super into Bela Fleck, which I never really understood.
I knew Bela before this record,
Mm-hmm.
but like who's on this record? Uh, the McCurrys, Taj, the Bela Fleck, Jeff Coffin, Reese Winans. I was a big SRV fan, so I was like, okay, I know that guy. Waylon Jennings, totally forgot he was on that record.
Oh wow, okay.
Scruggs, Jerry Douglas, Lucinda Williams, Randy Scruggs, Sam Bush, Todd
Dang.
Park, Bale Fuck again, John Bell. Yeah, it was.
Whoa.
John Popper was on it. Jeff Hanna, Sally Van Meter, uh, who was killer. But yeah, it's can't even.
I'm gonna
That's it.
sound like Marty McFly right now, but that's heavy.
It's heavy, man. It's super heavy. I can't.
Damn.
I would. That's an all. That could be a top 5 record all time for me.
Wow.
That could be
Okay.
an all time top 5 record.
I probably haven't heard that record since I was in high school, so I should go back and check that
Man,
out, man. Yeah.
there it
Wow.
is. I'm
Okay.
making a list here as we're saying these.
Okay. All right. And then my next one, I'm gonna go with the fish.
Whew.
Fish. Um, because I
Let's see if we're
mean,
gonna pick the same one.
I cut a lot of teeth on listening to Trey and figuring out what a major seventh chord was and how do you solo over that and how do you know this and that. Um, Billy Breathes.
Okay.
Billy Breathes is my favorite record, and it's my favorite record because as a songwriter at heart, what I do and what I love to do with music, I feel like that record was a shift in the paradigm of like what they were going to be doing with music moving forward. And in terms of like writing thoughtfully and not feeling like they had to write through composed music. Like they could write
Yeah.
these catchy tunes. I mean, like, how can you deny Free? Like how that song starts off, dude. Like it's just like on that bell, that ride just slamming. And you're just like, what is gonna happen? Like, and
Yeah.
it's just this gorgeous, like harmonic, like voice leading melody. And it's just like that album and like Theme from the Bottom. Oh, dude, like that song hits me hard every time, man. Like that groove, like that Mike's playing and everything. Oh, it's just
That's a really good one. I would have picked Farmhouse, but I'm not picking Farmhouse. But
that's Robert Keeley's favorite Fish album. I had him on
yeah,
here. We were talking
right.
about it.
He's a big jammer from back in the day.
Yeah, he is.
He loves the jam.
Yeah, he does.
Um, but yeah, Billy Breeze. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like those songs, like you could definitely tell they weren't like writing them out on paper as much. I felt,
And
Uh,
like, what's towards the end of that record, like there's just like um oh man, what else is on that record? I'm off the top of my head. I can't think of all the bangers. But anyway, that album is just it sounds great too. I mean, everything the way that it was Waste is great. Yeah.
Taste.
Taste, yeah. I know.
That's probably
Character Zero.
Prince Caspian.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I mean, there's some. Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
free Character Zero, Prince Caspian. Like those 3 songs alone would make it great for me.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
as
amazing.
far
It's
as
great.
big rocking tunes. I have
Yeah.
a hot take though. I feel like Trey is better at making studio albums on his own than Fish is.
Um
I
well,
like Trey's studio records more than I like Fish studio records.
Are you talking about like Tab stuff? Or are you talking
Yes,
about
yes.
like okay?
Like
Yeah, that's
like
the
the
first Tab
self-titled
record.
record, man.
Yeah.
That one I remember listening to in college. I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the
It,
first time I heard Push On Until the Day, I was like, holy shit. Like the
forget it.
horns. Oh my God, dude. And like, here's the thing. That record Shine, not so much. Like,
Mm,
no, thank you. But like that first Tab record blew my
banger.
head wide open. Wide open.
It's a good buddy of mine is a songwriter in Nashville named Dave Barnes, um, who is just like not just, but he's pretty removed from this type of music as far as the music he makes. I remember talking to him one time, and I think Trey or Fish's name came up, and he's like, "Dude, that first record, that first solo record he did, like, I still listen to that." I was
Oh,
like,
heck yeah,
"Really?" Well,
dude.
like, wow, and he's writing songs with like Lady A and like these big time country Nashville songs. He's like, "Man, I love like just jamming that Trey first record."
Mm-hmm. Oh
So,
man, it's a good one. I almost put that on here, but I was like, Billy Breathes is my jam for
all right,
sure.
how many do we have? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We each get one more. Okay,
Yep.
okay. Um, Dave Matthews Band Before These Crowded Streets.
Okay.
That that might be the most perfect jam band studio album I've ever heard
Yeah.
because it's by far I think their best studio record that they made. Everybody like Crash is what made them famous, but Before These Crowded Streets, like from front to back, it's every one of those songs.
Dude, Stay. Oh.
Stay. I love
Woo.
it. Or even Halloween. Like I've seen him play Halloween a couple times. People are losing their minds when they play Halloween,
Oh
losing
yeah.
their minds. And I know they don't play it very often, but like, I mean, even the opening, the little going into Rapunzel, the little Pantala Nagapampa before going into Rapunzel.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm just like, man, every time that just gets me. And that was right when they're probably the band I've seen the most. I've probably seen them 20 times. And
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
and he's the guy that made me want to play guitar. When I was 14, I saw the band in Davenport, Iowa. It'd have been August 17th, 1995.
Oh yeah, I think we did talk about that
We
when you were on
did,
the show.
yeah.
Yeah. That was
And
3 years ago now. Isn't that weird?
oh,
It's like
dude,
it's so weird.
could have done without that. But he's the guy that made me want to play guitar. And so when I remember I was senior in high school and that came out, and a buddy of mine who was a drummer was really into him too. And I just remember sitting in his car and we're just listening to this record, and we're like, I don't even know where to start with this
Yeah.
stuff. Even like just playing it, like I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
It was incredible. So yeah, Before These Crowded Streets is an all-time record.
Is So Much to Say on that record?
No, that's on Crash.
Is it on Crash?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, Rapunzel is that's a great song. Yeah, that's a great tune. Oh
Uh,
man.
and Steve Lillywhite, I mean, Dreaming Tree, Crush, Last Stop, Pig, Stone, Rapunzel. I mean, it's
Yeah, Stone, that's a great song.
like Spoon. Alanis is on this record. Bela Fleck is on this record.
Yeah.
Uh, Butch Taylor's on this record. I mean, it's a lot of people don't realize Alanis is on that record.
Yep. Oh, did I lose your audio? I think I lost your audio, Jason. Something went funky. Sounds like a cable, almost. Oh, yep, there you go.
Check. Are we
Yep,
good?
don't
Oh.
move the cable.
Oh man, I think it's this right here. I'm not gonna touch it. Okay.
Yeah. All right, that's what happens, kids. When you're a musician for this long, you can tell when it's a bad cable. You will
Yep.
always know.
All right, you got one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9.
All right, here we go. Humphreys McGee. Anchor Drops. Anchor Drops is just chef's kiss. And like for me, I think that when I discovered that band, that was like right around when I was touring with my jam band, and we were like coming up the same time they were coming up. Obviously, we didn't get to where they are, but I remember like we were gigging and we were somewhere and some promoter gave us like a copy of like the first Bonnaroo. Remember that compilation that would come out? And they, like, I think Hurt Birdbath was on there. And I was like, what is this band? This is kind of goofy. Like, this is interesting because it's like they have like metal elements at times for like measures at a time. And then it's like this groovy stuff. But like hearing Chris Myers play, I was like, damn, like this band is like so tight. The songs are great. I mean, Plunger.
Now, see,
I
I
was like,
think of
what?
them as the most metal jam band.
Yeah, I mean they're almost more metal than Pantera at times, because do you know what I mean?
They can be. I
Yeah,
mean, but yeah, that's a great album.
yeah, really great album. And In the Kitchen is on there, and like there's so many great tunes on that record. And again, like I'm always a sucker for a great drummer, always. I think deep inside of me, I wish I was a drummer, because I just love drums and I love hearing cool polyrhythmic patterns and like people doing stuff when they're splitting their limbs, and it's just I love that. And if it grooves while they're doing that, so it's not like a circus act,
Yes.
hats off. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that record has that all over it, all over it.
When you said you deep down you're a drummer, when I did my master's degree, I had to do guitar, piano, bass, and drums. And so, like on my recital, I would move from one instrument to another. And obviously, I was the best on guitar, but I had the most fun on drums. The
Oh heck
most
yeah.
fun on drums. Yeah.
Heck yeah. And you
My
know what? Whose birthday is today is Charlie Hunter. And
Oh, is
Charlie,
it really?
yeah, when
Oh man,
he happy birthday, Charlie. And
happy birthday, Charlie.
when he was on my show, I asked him at the one of my questions in the lightning round get down. I was like, I think he thought I was gonna say guitar or bass. And I was like, guitar or drums. And he's like, drums immediately. Drums
Yeah.
immediately. I was
Yeah.
like,
I
okay.
mean, it's fortunate if you're good at it like he is, but just sheer playing, it's definitely the most fun instrument.
Oh,
Definitely the most fun instrument.
that's why kids gravitate towards it, man. It's kinetic. It's like easy to get a sound.
Hitting things, it's like a very physical. If I hit this harder, it's louder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah,
Which is funny. I saw John's interview with Theo Katzman today, and Theo was talking about that. I mean, about like your shelf as a guitarist
yes,
versus like a shelf as a drummer. He's like, you can hit it harder and it's louder, but
yeah,
if I got my amp this loud, no matter how hard I hit the strings, that's as loud as it's gonna be, man. Like,
right. I mean, even acoustic guitar, you're gonna hit a ceiling. You know,
yeah,
what I mean? But drums, it's literally how hard can you hit it?
it's on like Donkey Kong, man.
Who's the hardest hitting drummer you've seen live?
Probably Darren Jesse from Ben Folds 5.
Wow,
That was the loudest concert I've ever been to. Ben Folds 5.
really?
Yes. Easily.
I
And it
s-
was friggin' glorious.
when did they break up? Because I saw them in Milwaukee at Summerfest in the 2000s.
Yeah, I mean they got through Reinhold Messner and then they broke up. So that would have been around like super early 2000s.
But they must have gotten back together then for a little bit after
They
that.
did a tour where they just played Reinhold Messner. They played the whole record.
That must have been the tour I saw them on then.
Yeah, because they did that a few years back. But after they split, Ben that's when he put out like his EP stuff and then Songs for Silverman and all that.
Gotcha.
So
I would say the hardest hitting drummer I've seen live is probably Chad Smith.
yeah, that makes sense.
He
bashes the shit out of
yeah, it was a tour at the Foo Fighters. It was them and Foo Fighters. It was in 2000. I think it was Chris's first tour.
Dang.
And, it was great. Yeah, it was
Yeah, he
incredible.
uses his whole arm, man. He's like his technique is not in his wrist. He's not finessing that stuff, man.
No, he's not.
Yeah, you don't need to in that band though. Well, what's the loudest concert you've ever been to then?
The loudest concert I've ever been to is Yngwie Malmsteen.
Really?
Yeah, we did a rig rundown at the House of Blues in Chicago, and he had like his 40 Marshall heads and 37 cabinets. We all knew it wasn't like they're all on. We knew those two over there were on. That was it.
Right.
But by golly, I don't know if it was because it was an empty room or whatever. It was like painfully loud,
Yeah.
painfully loud. I saw Guns N' Roses in that same room at the House of Blues, and then that was pretty loud. But yeah, I mean Metallica was pretty loud, but that just sticks out in my head. That sound check with Ingve was so loud, so loud. And the woman I was with, Rebecca, she was like, "That's really loud, right?" I go, "Yeah, that's really, really loud." But
Oh
I
God.
don't know if he was like, if they hadn't, I don't know. I don't think that was probably the final volume level. I don't think the final volume level was quite set
Right.
at that time. They probably hadn't dialed in the PA at that point or whatever.
They're
But
like, we'll get some bodies in here and it'll soak it
so
up.
yeah, right, whatever. That doesn't work.
We'll crush all these people's internal organs. It'll be all
It
good.
was like you just feel it in your chest. Like it was like, oh, oof, man.
Let's do some honorable mentions of a couple live records that you love.
Okay, I'll give you two of them.
Okay.
That I like. To me, best live Fish record is Slip, Stitch, and Pass.
This is a great one. That Wolfman's.
Great one.
Oh,
Wolfman's, right?
yeah.
And the other one is Dave Matthews Band live in Chicago, the one from 2010.
I haven't heard that.
It's incredible. I think that album they came out, Big Whiskey,
Oh, yeah.
that's right up there with the first three records. It was the one right after Leroy died. I think there's a little bit of Leroy on there still. And I was at that show.
Oh,
That was
nice.
the show it was at Wrigley Field, live at Wrigley Field, and it was a show we did the rig rundown at, and it was just incredible. Me and my wife and a friend of ours, we went to the show, and it was great. And then we drove back all night. I fell asleep, and the two girls did. They they drove me home,
Oh, man.
but it was great. But I remember like we were pulling in Cedar Rapids, and like the sun was coming up and everything. And we didn't know at the time that was going to be a live record, but then it came out, and that was just incredible.
That's amazing.
And because there's a lot of the set list is really good. Has a lot of their old stuff. They do the last stop, which they rarely do, unless it's the last stop, which it was. And it has like probably some of their best newer songs, that weren't from those first three records. So those are my two choices: Live in Chicago, Dave Matthews Band, Slip, Stitch, and Pass by Fish.
Okay. That probably never gets old too, man. Like going to like do those things with bands that you love. That never gets old.
It never does, but I haven't done one in like 10 years.
I know. Yeah. I'm kind of miss seeing you up there,
Oh
man.
those are all done in Nashville now, but I feel like I kind of scratch that itch with all the podcasts that I do now.
Yeah, that's true.
That's fun,
Yeah, man.
But yeah, so what are yours?
Well, so I love Moe's L. That record.
Is that
That's great.
1998?
It's probably 99 or 2000.
I was working at Best Buy when that came out.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks like a band I should check out. I think, no, I'd already heard a little Tin Cans before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'd heard Tin Cans, and then that came out. I was like, oh, okay. The plane crash on there is ridiculous.
Yeah, and the Spine of a Dog into Buster is so good. Super fun. And that was like the beginning of Jim kind of coming back into the fold too. So when I have talked to him, he was like, yeah, man, I was just kind of figuring it out as I went at that time. And I'm like thinking, oh, well, you must have wrote those parts, right? And he was like, no, no, never. Like I just got up there and we kind of just like figured it out as we went along. And over time, I've written parts, but like at that time on L, it's tongue in cheek, seat of my pants. Totally.
That and the first Warts and All were the two that really stuck out to me early on.
And since we talked about my friend Buddy, he told me, let me see here. So he said what he thought should be my live Moe record. What did he say? We had a whole conversation about shoes today too, and he was sending me all these stuff. He said, was it Dr. Stan's Volume 2?
Okay.
So I gotta check. I don't think I've heard that one, but anyway. So the Mo L also
Mm-hmm.
too. I gotta give it up to the Spin Doctors. Homebelly Groove is a friggin' phenomenal live record.
Did not see that
Phenomenal.
coming. Spin
Spin
Doctors.
Doctors
Okay.
Homebelly Groove, and it was recorded at the Wetlands in New
Mm,
York when it still was there. And just some great playing on that. Eric Shankman just lights it up. And there's a song called Sweet Widow that was on the European release of Pocket Full of Kryptonite, but
right.
wasn't
Right.
on the US version. And it is a beautiful song. His clean tone on that, he was playing a Pensa Sur with 3
Wow.
humbuckers, I think.
Huh.
And I think he was going into a plexi or something like that. But amazing, amazing tone. And then lastly, I will say this because they've become a jam band, but the Live from the Rooftop Dolls record is so good. So good.
Have you
So good.
checked out the live from the Englert stuff?
Mm-mm.
Well, you've seen the clip on YouTube, I think. They did a live stream from the Englert Theater here in Iowa.
I didn't
Um,
see. I mean, I saw the Beacon Theater. I bought the Nugs pass for the Beacon Theater
yeah.
show they did.
Mhm.
And I saw them in DC when they came here, and that was my first show, my first Dolls show. And I was just like, I was already in love with the band. My
You
buddy
should
exposed.
you should come see them when they play Codfish Hollow. You know what Codfish Hollow is?
Yeah.
It's a barn in the middle of
Oh, you
absolutely
told me
nowhere,
about
Iowa.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
when
yeah.
they roll through, they'll play like 2 or 3 nights, or Nathaniel Rateliff will come and play 2 or 3 nights.
Dang.
Or I mean, and it's literally like you have to like park your car and then you get on a wagon to drive you from the parking lot to the barn.
I'm down.
And it's in Makokata, Iowa. And they always get great bands, but it's like once in a while they'll get a band like Dawes come in and they'll just set up for 3 nights and they'll just play. And it's outside, like under the stars. Well, it's covered, but it's very, very rural. Probably holds 300 people. Maybe,
Oh,
maybe.
shit.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm talking like it's rare that you see bands like that in a setting like this. You know,
Oh, man.
it's
It
incredible. It's like the opposite of Red Rocks. You know,
if you hear any rumblings, let me know because I would love to do that.
Codfish
That
Hollow, man. If there's any
okay.
reason to go to Iowa to see a concert,
Yeah.
Codfish Hollow.
Okay. Okay. Well, I think I know you had a couple other studio records. Do you want to do any honorable mentions here?
I would give honorable mentions to Pat Metheny Group's The Way Up.
Mm.
That was the one where it's like it's one single through composed 62 minute piece of music.
Dang.
That was really, really good. And Jimmy Herring's Subject to Change Without Notice, his second solo record.
Yeah, I know that one. Yeah.
Right when that was coming out, he had like a guitar workshop thing in Raleigh at this really, really nice studio. And so I flew out there to cover it, and we filmed his first rig run down there. We did it at 1 a.m. I mean, it was insane. But it was like it was Neil Fountain on bass, Sipe on drums, Matt Slocum on keys, and Jimmy. They just set up in a recording studio for like 30 people and played like the whole record almost.
Mm.
And it was just, and we just hung like for 3 days. We just hung out in this studio, and he did like some clinics, and they played, and it was like open rehearsals, and I think it was basically like a tune up for them to go on the road because the bus, like the last day, the bus literally pulled up, and they all got on the bus and hit the road.
That's cool,
But
man.
that was, I mean, hearing him break into Aberdeen, like right, and he plays loud. He plays very
Yeah.
loud. Aberdeen, and just like, oh, it's cool. Like his whole family was there. His wife and kids were all there hanging out, and it was such a great experience. I think that probably colors my appreciation for that album because I got to see it like that.
Yeah.
But
That'll
man,
do it.
yeah, it'll do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
those two are my Bale's on that record too.
Oh man. Dude, Jimmy Herring. Good lord.
No kidding.
All right. All right, you want to do the lightning round get down? I have a jam band themed lightning round get down for you.
Yes.
All right, so here we go. You know the rules of this. I don't need to explain it to you, but for anyone who's new here watching this, 10 questions. 141. No, Mark, 112. I must have been doing something trying to find a BPM. 112 BPM. I'm going to ask Jason 10 questions. It's kind of this or that type of thing. Here we go. First one. Tweezer or Tweezer reprise?
Tweezer.
Disco Biscuits or God Street Wine?
Disco.
Okay. And this is going to be easy for you. Dave Matthews or Keller Williams?
Oh, Dave. Yeah.
Gamehenge, yes or no? Thank you.
Yes. And I'm of the camp that they need to play it again.
Okay.
They need to play it again.
Yeah. Paige McConnell or Joel Cummings?
Oh, Paige.
Okay.
Although Joel looks just like the drummer in my band. Like we would be out at rig run. Like if we were at a rig rundown, where are we at? Grace Potter. We were at a Grace Potter rig rundown, and the guitar players were the drummer was flipping out because he's like, "I thought you were Joel. I thought you were Joel."
Oh man. Dark Star Orchestra or J-Rad?
J-Rad.
I
like the tempos up. I like the tempos up.
Yeah, I hear you. Tenacious D or Flight of the Conchords?
Oh, Tenacious D.
All right, O'Teal. You prefer him with the Dead and Company, or do you prefer him with Tedeschi Trucks?
I'm gonna say Dead and Company simply because the sample size for Tedeschi Trucks is so small.
Yeah. Okay.
He was not in that band very long.
No. But he was on that first record that I mentioned earlier.
He was on the first record, right? I tell you what though, if there was a third option, like I would see him and Derek play over anything.
Yeah. Totally.
I mean, really.
Oh yeah. Chuck or Al? Let's go tone so we don't hurt any feelings. Chuck's tone or Al or Al's tone?
I would say if you're like you could have Chuck's rig or Al's rig, I would go Chuck's rig.
Yeah, totally.
Have
you played through a lot of Brunos?
Yes, because when I used to work at the guitar workshop out there, a buddy of mine used to play those a lot.
Okay.
I mean, they're like the ones I were playing were just like very well made, Voxy style AC30 amps. You know.
Okay.
The ones that I played, I don't know if he makes different styles or whatever, but I don't even think he's even making amps anymore.
I don't think he is.
But yeah, I do like the Brunos.
Yeah, cool. This should be obvious. Fish or Tab?
Not as obvious. I would go Fish.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Here's the last one, Jason. So, out of all these jam band records that we've mentioned, or maybe that we didn't mention, is there one jam band record that you wish you could erase from your memory so you could go back and listen to it again for the first time?
Oh, okay. I see. I didn't see where you were going to put that twist in at the very end. Like, let's erase it because you don't want to hear it again.
No. Yeah, erase it because you want to experience it for the first time again.
Erase it because I want to hear it for the first time again. As I'm looking at our list, I would say, I guess the question is really, what album would you want to erase from your memory so you could hear it again?
Yeah, because it was so powerful to you.
Oh, Before These Crowded Streets.
Oh, okay.
These Crowded Streets, yeah, without a doubt. Like there's only maybe 4 or 5 records in my life where I'm like, when I first heard it, I was like, "What is this?"
Yeah,
that was one of them for sure. The La Bamba soundtrack was another one.
Oh heck yeah, dude! Yeah, I know. I had that on tape. I'm pretty sure.
My wife, I have it hanging on my wall right here. My wife got me the vinyl signed by the whole band.
Oh, that's dope.
It was great.
Man. Oh man, that's so cool. Well, Jason, dude, thank you so much for hanging out and doing this. It was super fun, man.
It was great. I'll do this anytime you want.
We'll have to come up with another spin on this topic. But
we will.
What's going on in your world?
I'm more than just a jam band guy.
I know that. But you're one of my friends who I know appreciates it and would think about it. So I was like, hey, I know Jason would be into this. What besides Rock of Ages, like, and besides like anything like cool going on with Premier Guitar, like in terms of new things that are
Stuff.
happening? Other
Yes. Let's see what we just finished season 6 of Corey Wong's Wong Notes, which I produce. Season 7 will start in August. And I will tell you, the first guest we recorded with, we haven't announced yet, is Wolfgang Van Halen.
Oh snap!
That's a really great one. That'll be really fun.
Super cool.
So that's coming up. I'm working on the cover story for our August issue right now,
Cool.
which is Corey Wong. But there's a twist. He's being interviewed by James Valentine.
Oh, very interesting.
Number
Okay.
5. So that will be a super fun. That'll be for our August issue. So I'm working on that. Right now, like literally today, I'm in the midst of a run of SpongeBob musical, which was that's a super fun musical to play.
That's super cool.
So I played I played a 8:30 a.m. show today for SpongeBob, a school matinee thing. So
Nice.
I have another week of that, a couple weeks off. Then I do that. Then I am teaching in August. I am teaching at the John Petrucci Guitar Camp down in Florida.
Saw that too. That's awesome, dude. Congrats.
With Zach Wild and Pliny and Tosin and Polyphia and a million other shredders. What else do I have going on? And then doing working on Dead Wax with the guys from Scary Pockets.
Yeah, man.
That's coming out. We also have some other things that will be announced in a week or two, he says mysteriously. But I assure you that guitar players across the world, near and high, and Mark is doing a great job by not spilling the beans on this. Guitar players low and high will be quite interested.
Yes.
In this.
Yes, absolutely. You know, it's funny too. Remember when we were hanging out at NAMM and my buddy Chris was with me from OCE Pedals? Did he tell you, like during the day, he's an animator for SpongeBob? That's his day gig.
No kidding.
Chris is a man of many freaking talents, and he's an amazing like animator, and he's so talented. Like just art, guitar pedals, and
he should know John Achenbach. John Achenbach is when we did our Homer Simpson cover, he was an animator for the Simpsons. Now he's a director for Beavis and Butthead. Total guitar nerd. He's done artwork for like Jam Pedals and that pedal show stuff, and he's done stuff for us. And but it's interesting, like those two guys who are really into guitar stuff and are like world class artists.
Yeah, I love that stuff, man. When worlds collide.
No kidding, right?
Yeah, dude. Well, Jason, man, thank you again. It's always fun to hang out with you, and yeah, dude. And so I'll give you back to your family now, but everybody else, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We'll see you next time.